You know the feeling when you scroll through a listing, see a workstation that looks like it could handle anything you throw at it, and then you get it home only to realize it doesn't actually fit the way you work. Maybe the case is too bulky for your cramped office, or the performance feels a step behind what the marketing promised. I've been there, and that frustration is why I'm doing this deep dive, so you can avoid the same mistake. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, let's talk about the kind of decision you're making when you consider a compact workstation like the Lenovo ThinkStation P3 Gen 2. This isn't a gaming rig or a home theater box. It's aimed at professionals who need serious compute power but don't have the luxury of a full-size tower. The tiny form factor is a real selling point for architects, video editors, data analysts, or anyone who runs resource-heavy software on a desk that's already crowded with monitors and drawing tablets. The biggest hesitation most buyers have is whether the size savings end up costing them in performance or future-proofing. That's the risk you want to weigh before you click Add to Cart. What you get inside the P3 is an Intel Core Ultra 7265 processor paired with 32GB of DDR5 memory. In practice, that combination means you can keep a dozen tabs open in Chrome while running a large SQL database query, rendering a 4K video preview in Adobe Premiere, or compiling code in Visual Studio without feeling that dreaded lag spike. I've spoken to a few freelancers who run both Photoshop and After Effects on the same machine. They tell me the 32GB of RAM lets them swap between heavy layers and effects without the dreaded out-of-memory warnings that can stall a project for hours. The SSD is a 1TB NVMe drive, so loading a 200GB project file takes seconds instead of minutes, and the overall responsiveness feels more like a high-end laptop than a stationary workstation. But the compact nature also brings hidden trade-offs that matter once you've unpacked the box and plugged it in. The chassis is only 13 inches wide, which means the cooling solution is tuned for a specific thermal envelope. In a real-world office that's air-conditioned, you'll see the fans stay quiet during typical workloads, but under sustained load, say you're rendering a full 3-minute animation at 1080p, the temperature climbs quickly and the fans kick up to a noticeable hum. It's not a failure, but it's something you'll hear if you have a quiet recording studio nearby. Another practical consideration is expandability. The ThinkStation P3 ships with a single 300W power supply, which is plenty for the stock CPU and an entry-level professional GPU if you add one, but you won't be able to bolt on a second GPU or a high-end workstation-grade card without hitting the power ceiling. The internal drive bays are limited to one 2.5-inch slot, so if you ever need more than 1 TB you'll have to go external, which adds clutter and extra cost. For most users, the 1 TB SSD is a generous amount, especially when you factor in the speed boost, but a studio that archives raw footage on-site will quickly outgrow that space. Who should buy this machine? If you're a solo creative professional or a small team that values desk real estate and needs a reliable, always-in platform for CAD, data analysis, or media production, the ThinkStation P3 is a solid match. Its small footprint fits nicely under a standing desk, and the Windows 11 Pro OS gives you the enterprise-grade management tools like BitLocker encryption and remote desktop that IT departments appreciate. The 32GB of DDR5 also means you're future-proofed for the next generation of software that leans heavily on memory bandwidth. If you already have a workflow that relies on external storage or cloud-based archives, the limited internal expansion won't be a deal-breaker. On the other hand, you should skip this workstation if you're looking for a gaming machine, or if your day-to-day tasks involve heavy GPU rendering that would benefit from dual GPU setups. The limited power budget and the tiny chassis restrict you to a single mid-range professional GPU, which is fine for most design and video tasks but could be a bottleneck for high-end 3D rendering or AI model training that demand more horsepower. Also, if you anticipate needing to upgrade the CPU down the line, the P3 isn't built for swapping out the processor. The socket is soldered, so you're essentially locked into the Core Ultra 7 for the life of the machine. From a value-for-money perspective, the ThinkStation P3 lands in an interesting spot. Lenovo's workstation line traditionally commands a premium because of the validation and support you get for professional software, and the P3 is no exception. The price reflects the combination of a high-end CPU, DDR5 memory, and a fast SSD, all packed into a compact enclosure. Compared to buying a full-size tower with similar specs, you're paying a bit extra for the size advantage, but you also save on the cost of a separate monitor arm or desk space that a larger case would consume. For anyone